Hey everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be looking at a tube headphone amp and DAC, the xDuoo TA22. And I'd like to thank Apos Audio for sending over a sample for review. Looking at the unit, the build quality is super solid, very nice. Beautiful casework, no flex anywhere, and it has some nice weight to it. The screen is very crisp and clear, although it can't be dimmed or turned off. The large red encoder feels okay. It controls the volume when turned. With a short press, it toggles through the inputs: balanced, aux, USB, coaxial, optical, and Bluetooth. With a long press, you get into the setup menu: filter, pairing, gain. And the gain has low, medium, and high settings. The filters are the standard ESS filters. On the top, you have a pair of 12 AU7 tubes, and you also get a set of removable tube protectors. And I don't have inside pets, so I prefer them without the protectors. On the rear, from the left, are the RCA outs. The first is labeled tube and is a variable out, while the next one, labeled DAC, is a fixed line out direct from the DAC. I really wish they would have given us just one set of RCA variable outs and then a toggle or a button on the front of the unit to select either a tube or DAC direct mode, like on the Freya, where you can choose between passive, JFET, and tube outputs. Next are the line ins. The first one on RCA labeled aux in, the next on XLR and 4.4 labeled balanced in, and on the balance section you can only use one at a time, so either the XLR or the 4.4mm. Next, the digital section with Toslink optical, coaxial, and USB-B, and the port for the Bluetooth antenna. The digital is handled by a pair of ESS 9038Q2M DAC chips with sampling rate support of up to 32-bit 384 kHz PCM and DSD 256. On the SPDIF ends, most likely up to 24192. The power section isn't auto switching, so you will have to select between 110 volt or 220 volt AC here. Then a very nice power rocker and your IEC power inlet. I would have loved to have seen this unit be more of a preamp device with variable XLR outputs with options for both the tube and DAC direct, as well as a remote control. But I really think the focus here was more so on the headphone amp, with the DAC for convenience at a good price point. I do appreciate the addition of the XLR ins, great for when you're adding a higher end DAC with balanced outs. The TA22 is a hybrid design headphone amp with the 12 AU7 tubes actually doing the amplification and a transistor doing the buffering. And the headphone section puts out up to 1.5 watts on single-ended and up to 3 watts on the balanced outputs. As for sound from the rear outputs, on the fixed line out, the DAC output, it's good, slightly more detailed and resolving than the SMSL SU1 and about the same as the SMSL PS200. But with the addition of the tubes, the DAC definitely performs much better. Through the tube out, everything was larger, slightly warmer and fuller while retaining detail and clarity. The mids are nicely detailed, the bass is full, and the highs aren't sharp but noticeable. And the tubes definitely opened up the soundstage. I did a lot of plugging and unplugging for this one, and this is how I'd rank it against various DACs that I tested, and completely subjective and to my liking. From good to better, the SMSL SU1 first, then the DAC direct out of the TA22, followed by the topping D50 Mark III, then the tube output out of the TA22, followed by the topping D90 Mark III, and finally the topping D90 Mark III balanced to the TA22 and out from there. At the time of testing, I didn't have either of the D70 Pros to compare. So in my experience, the better the DAC, the better the tube sound from the TA22. And this is also before playing with different tubes as well. I've heard some people say that they don't find that the TA22 is particularly tubey sounding. Now with my experience over a couple months with the TA22, I personally don't understand those comments. But maybe they're listening for different characteristics of a tube sound that I'm not. When I think of a tube sound, I'm generally thinking of the sound opening up spatially, not necessarily softening up the sound or rolling off the top end. And with the TA22, it's super easy to hear that difference, since you do have those two outputs, one DAC direct and one through the tubes. So it's as simple as switching over on a preamp. Maybe with headphones it's a little bit tougher to tell, but unfortunately on the TA22, the only thing you get out of the front outputs is through the tubes and not DAC direct. As for the headphone section, it's definitely a solid amp. Plenty of power, but does have room for improvements. I did find that the xDuoo TA20 Plus had a deeper, more full bass with yet still more detail and clarity. I found that headphone amp to be a little more lively and fun. And when comparing these two, I had the SMSL PS200 paired with the TA20 Plus. So my final thoughts, if you're looking for a tube-based headphone amp with a DAC, the TA22 is definitely a solid option if your budget is around $500. It's a very attractive unit with a couple of upgrade paths in that you can add an additional DAC or you can switch out the tubes as well. But if you already own a higher end DAC, the T20 Plus is a better option in my eyes. So that's all I have for you guys on this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.